Today is September the 22nd, 2016, and I'm here with Miss Smith in Rocky Mountain, North Carolina. Now, to start, Miss Smith, would you say your full name for the camera here?
My full name?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lorene Smith.
Okay, and how do you spell your name, your first name?
Lorene.
Okay, great. And am I right that you just had your birthday just the other week? And how old are you now?
93.
93. Well, let's start a little bit by just could you tell me about where you were born and what you remember about your parents and that kind of thing?
Well, I was born over there on Spring Street, September the 1st, 1993.
To 1923, right? Is that right?
And I lived over there. I was raised over there, and I lived over there. I got married twice. And the second marriage, they moved us over here. But I forgot what, it was in April, but I forgot what year it was.
Okay.
Because it was still kind of cool. You had to have heat. We had a oil heater over there.
Over on Spring Street.
Yeah. And after my husband died, the mill put this gas heater in. And they took out so much on my rent. My rent went up till I got it paid for. But I lived over there. I lived over there all my life on Spring Street till they moved me over here.
So you said you moved when you got married for the second time. That's right. And what was your maiden name then before you were married?
My maiden name was
Yes,
Raynor.
Raynor. That's Raynor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what were your parents' names?
What?
What were your parents' names?
What was my married name?
Your father and mother. What were their names?
My mom and daddy.
Yes, ma'am.
My mama's name was Sally Raynor, and my daddy's name was John Benjamin Raynor. And I had one brother. His name was John Robert Raynor. I had two sisters. My oldest sister was Elder May Raynor, and my youngest sister was Josephine.
And did your parents or your brothers and sisters, did they work in the mill too, or?
Well, my youngest sister, she worked at Burlington. She went to work down there to start with in the finishing department at Rocky Mountain Mill, but then she didn't work down there about a week or two. She got a job over at Caramount. And my brother, he went to work down there. He worked down there till he retired.
Oh, wow.
Like I did.
So you worked there for many years too?
Well, when I had been working down there for 35 years, they gave me a bedspread, a Martha Washington bedspread, because I had been working 35 years.
Wow.
And then when I retired, they gave me a war bond. And in the department that I worked, they gave me a party.
Oh, wow.
When I retired, and they made up money and they bought me that miller.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So when they were going to come in here and fix the house, I told them to be sure nothing didn't happen to it, because them people that I worked with in that department went around, made up money. They give me a party and bought me that miller.
Wow.
I said I didn't want nothing to happen to it.
No, I can't blame you. It's beautiful. And so, well, let's talk about when did you get started working at the mill? How old were you when you got started working there at the mill?
I went to work down there when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I used to go down there when I was about 14, 15, take a lady's lunch, her supper, and she worked in the finishing department, and I learned how to put up ends before I ever went to work. Well, you weren't supposed to go inside the mill, but she worked out there, and we had a part from the mill out there that had some spinning frames in there, and that's where she worked. And while she was eating, I'd go around and keep her ends put up. So that's why I went in the spinning room, because I used to go down there and take her lunch. She worked the second shift, and I'd go down there and take her lunch about 5 o'clock. And she learned me how to put the ends up before I ever went to work.
So who was this that you were bringing the lunch to? This is a friend or family member?
Ma'am?
Who is it that you were bringing the lunch to when you were going down there? Someone you knew, you said? Was it a family member or?
No, she was just a neighbor.
Oh, she's a neighbor.
Lived down the street from me.
So you started there when you were 18. I remember last time we talked, you said you'd go down there and...
Yeah, when I got 18, I went down there. And the man said, they had the personnel office right down the corner down here.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
that little building. And he told me, he said, you're not big enough to work. I said, well, I'm old enough. And I went down there every week after I got 18. And my sister, my youngest sister, she went with me. And he told me, he said, you don't look like you're big enough to work. Said, she's the one that ought to be asking for the job. I said, yeah, but she's not old enough. She was a lot bigger than I was. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a job because I really believe you want one. So that's when he hired me.
How many times did you have to go down there before he hired you?
I tell you, I went down there, it's a lot of cold weather. Snow was nearing up to here. And walked back home, and I worked second shift. Walked back home at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
There was some cold days back then.
So what time would you go, when you worked second shift, what time would you go into work?
I went in at 3 o'clock and worked till 11.
Wow.
That's 8 hours.
Yeah. And were there 3 shifts running at the mill, or just 2, or?
Huh?
And now, in that time, was the mill running 3 shifts, or 2 shifts?
They had 3 shifts working. First shift from 7 to 3, and the second shift from 3 to 11. And the third shift was from 11 till 7 the next morning.
Mm-hmm. So around the clock, huh?
But you know what? I like that shift because, well, I wasn't married then.
Mm-hmm.
I was 19, I think, when I got married the first time. When I got married the second time, I was 26.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my son by my first husband.
Mm-hmm. He
was 4 years old. Me and my second husband went together 2 years before we got married. My son was 4 years old when me and him got married. And me and him didn't never have no children. He said we had Randy, that was enough.
Yeah.
So.
And now, did your first husband or your second husband, did they work in the mill too, or?
Oh yeah. That's where I met my first husband, was at the mill. I was
really?
working third shift, and he was working third shift. And we got married in December the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, most women goes and gets their hair all fixed before they go get married.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a regular appointment, so we went and got married that morning when we got off from work. And he went down there where he was boarding and got his clothes and brought them up to my mama's. We had already bought us a bedroom suit and had it put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to the beauty shop after we got married and got my hair fixed. When you're young, you do foolish things, don't you?
Sure, yes ma'am.
But my operator, she used to laugh about it. She said, most women comes and gets their hair fixed before they get married. She said, but you come and got yours fixed after you got married.
That's funny.
But I really had a good life, and I thank the Lord for all of it, because He's the one I trust, and He's the one that's always there. He's always there for you. I don't care where you're at or what you're doing. He's always there for you. So, and I've had some hard times and all like that, but in all of it, you know, you have to have the hard and the bad with the good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I thank the Lord for all the years He's given me.
Yes, ma'am.
He's been good to me.
Yes, ma'am. Well, so you said you moved over here when you got married to Mr. Smith, right? Your second husband, is that when you moved over to Elm Street where you are now?
No, I was staying over on Spring Street when I got married both times.
Oh, okay. So
And see, the second man I married, he lived next door to me when I was a little girl. He knew me when I was a little girl. He was a lot older than I was. Me and my first husband, we were both the same age. We were 19.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I got married the second time, my husband, he was a lot older than I was. He was about 40, and I was 25.
Wow.
And my son was by my first husband.
Mm-hmm.
He was 4 years old.
Yeah.
We went together 2 years before we got married.
Right.
And he was a good daddy to my son.
Mm-hmm.
He taught my son to call him daddy.
Yeah.
And my son really loved him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't never see his own daddy. His own daddy didn't never come about him.
That's too bad.
So I worked and raised him until me and my second husband got married. He helped me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I say, and I ain't always had it easy, you know. I've had some ups and downs like everybody else does in life, but in it all, the Lord was always there for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. And so now you were saying, so you moved over here later on after you've been married to Mr. Smith. Y'all moved over here to, this is, we're on West Elm Street now. Is that right? You remember about when you moved over here?
Talk a little louder.
I'm sorry. Do you remember about when you moved over to West Elm, to Elm Street here where we are now? That was after you married to Mr. Smith, or?
Well, no, we were still living over there on that street. After me and him got married, 'cause he lived next door to me. He told me one day that he knew when I was a little bitty girl,
Mm-hmm.
and my daddy, you know, he said my daddy put a fence up so us children wouldn't go in the road. He told me, he said, I remember when you were a little bitty girl. So he knew me all my life.
Oh, wow.
And he was drafted in service.
Mm.
Well, my first husband went in service too. And they both stayed in there until the war was over.
Oh, wow.
My first husband never went overseas. He was always stationed in Florida. And my second husband, we weren't married then.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him never got married to my son. My son was 4 years old
Yes,
when
ma'am.
me and him got married.
And now that'd be during the Second World War. Now, were you working at the mill already during the war? Is that when you started working there?
Well, no, I never worked nowhere else but down at the mill.
Mm-hmm. And now, when you started at the mill, that was during World War II. About, you would have been 18, so that would have been about 1942, something like that.
Yeah, the war broke out. I had already been working a right good while
Mm-hmm.
when the war broke out. I turned 18 in September,
Right.
and I went down there every week.
So you would have turned 18 in September of 41, I guess, something like that. So now, what was it like working at the mill during the war? Did things change much from what they had been, or?
Oh yeah, the mill changed a lot. we were working, the mill was running 6 days a week.
Wow.
They had the first shift and the second and the third. And when there wasn't no war, we didn't work 6 days. We just worked 5 days. But during the war, they got a lot of stuff from the mill. Everybody worked 6 days.
And now, do you remember what they were making then, or for the war?
What they were making?
Were they making something different than they had before, or was it just?
Well, they were making. They made yarn.
Mm-hmm.
They made. One time they made some sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
They made the stuff, the yarn they made. The people bought it and made sweaters and stuff.
Oh, so you
See
get lots of that.
What they done in the department I worked in. I worked with the friend. Upstairs, over where I worked, they worked with the cotton. They took the cotton and made it into the thread, and the thread come down to us in the spinning room. And we put it on another bobbin, and then it was sent to the Abbott room. They put it down something, and then they sent it up to the finishing department.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or another, it went up to the finish department, twister room. That's where my husband worked. He worked down there too.
And now, what did they do with it in the twisting room? What was?
Well, they done something to the thread up there. I didn't see it. They started up in the car room with the cotton. They made the cotton into the thread. The thread come down to the department I worked in. We made it in some more thread.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sent it over to the finishing department. And then they sent it up to the Abbott room. They done something to it. Then they sent it up to the finishing department. And then they sent it up to where my husband worked.
Now, so you said you got started before when you were 14, 15, going down there and helping out in the finishing department. Is that where you started working, or did you start working in the spinning room?
No, I went to work in the spinning room. I worked there till I retired.
So your entire career you worked in the spinning room?
Yeah.
Now, did anything? How did it change the way you made things throughout your whole career, or was it pretty much the same?
Well, they had some new frames to come in. They were always making changes down there. Then after I retired, they called me and I went back and worked a little bit in the spinning room for them. And then they didn't need me, so I come back home. And then they called me one day and asked me to come down to the personnel office. Said that there was a man that was working down there, one of the ladies that was working for him, she was pregnant. She was going to quit work. And I told him I had never done that kind of work before. And he said, well, it's not hard. We'll show you what to do. So I was supposed to go down there and work because she was going to stop. And she was planning to come back after she had her baby, but she didn't never come back. And I kept on working. Well, then they went on short time, and there was a man down in the Abbott room. He was one of the boss men, like. They had different boss men, for each shift. Well, he told me he hated to let me go. He said, I said, well, that's all right, because I knew I'd just come down here to work till that lady come back, and she didn't come back, so I kept on working.
Right.
He said, you're one of the best workers I've ever had. And he said, and I hate to let you go. He said, but they're going on short time, and they got a man down in the Abbott room they're going to send up here. And he used to tell me, he said, you don't have to have all your work and your workplace cleaned up when you get ready to go home. I said, yeah, but when I come in the next morning, I like to start new. I don't like to have no back work. I always try to get all my work done every day before I leave. He told me, he said, I hate to let you go. He said, but that's the way it works. I said, well, when I come down here to work for you, I know I didn't come down here to work all the time. I was just supposed to work till that lady got able to come back to work. But she decided she didn't want to come back to work. And it was nearby at Christmas. It was in December. And I was hoping I could work, till after Christmas, but they went on short time. So I told him, I said, that's all right. I know when I come to work, it won't for. But he was one of the best person I ever worked for. I worked for some good ones in the spinning room, and I worked for some that weren't so good. But they didn't get by me.
Yes, ma'am.
I used to come home, I'd be so upset every evening. I'd go in every morning, and the third shift woman would have my work messed all up. Some of them would be stopped off. And one morning I went to my boss, man, I told him, I said, I'm gonna need some help this morning. He said, well, I said, they got them balled up, stopped off. He said, well, you need help when everybody else does. So I turned around and come on out and went back to my job. But he went and got help and put it on. He told me up there in that other department that I was working for, that last man, he said, he told him, he said, I didn't know she was in here working. He said, yes, said, she's good too. He said, yes, she was the best spinner I had. Said, I hated to see her retire. He said, but me and her had our fault, our difference. I said, yeah, if he give it to me, I give it back to him. But I enjoyed working down there. The Banners was good people to work for.
Now, what was it like working in the spinning room? Was it all, you said the boss man would be a man, but was it all other women in the spinning room, or?
No, there was men working in there too.
Huh.
The men, you don't know nothing about it when I tell you about dolphin and say the men would come along when the bobbins would get full of thread. They would come along and doff them off and put an empty one on, and then I'd run it till they got full again. Then they'd come back and doff it off and put on empty one. That's what the men done.
And now, how many frames did you work when you were in the spinning room?
Well, when I first went to work down there and learned how to do it, I was running about 8 sides. And then they kept adding on to you. And when I first went to work, see, they made the roping. They had the cotton up in the card room, and they made the roping. It was on a big old thing that come down to us, and we'd put it up, and that's where we made the thread from that cotton that was on it. Well, when I first went to work and learned how to do the work, I had about 8 sides. And I could go to work and clean my job up. I'd clean my job up good, and I'd take me a book. And I'd sit up on a box of roping and read that book. I'd clean up my frames, and when I have them cleaned up good, I'd go over there and sit down and read, and I'd go back around and see if I had any ends down, put them all up, go back and sit. But when I retired, I couldn't do that. Because when I retired, I was running about 20 frames.
Wow.
And see, the men, they had a man to come around and put the roping up on top of your frame. But when I retired, I had to push my roping around in a box to every side. And I had 20 sides. Now, when I retired, it was getting hard. It wasn't like it was when I first went to work.
Now, was it when you retired? Was everybody working 20 sides like that, 20 frames, or was it just
Some of them had more than that.
Wow.
And every time I get a set of get my job caught up good and have it cleaned up. If you kept your job cleaned up, your ends would run better. Cause see, they had a blower to run around, and if you didn't keep your job cleaned up, it would blow the lint out, and that would tear your end down. If you didn't put that end back up, and that cotton kept running through, it would mess it all up, make more come down. But sometimes the blowers would blow if you didn't keep your job cleaned up and the lint out, it would blow that lint into that end, that would tear that end down. And if you didn't go back and put that end up, and that cotton kept running through there, after a while it would get around the roll, there's a steel roller there, it would get around that, and you had a hook, you had to pull it off. There's a lot about spinning that if you didn't keep it clean. But when I retired, it was getting harder all the time.
And now, why were people doing more sides? Were there just less people working, or more frames, or what?
Well, gave everybody more sides. And then they take the man that used to bring your roping around, put it up on the frame.
Right.
But then you had to push it in the box. You had a little box. You had to go and get it and push that box of roping around every side.
So really, they
20. Some of them had 20 and 22 sides.
Wow.
See, it was getting hard when I retired. But then after I retired, I went back in the spinning room.
Yes, ma'am.
They called me and asked me to come by and work a little while. I'd go down there and work a little while. But I didn't have to run no more sides like that.
So what were you doing then?
I just work around in the spinning room.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they had rollers, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you had to pick them rollers to keep that cotton picked up. But later years they had a thing that you go around with it, electric, and pick it.
Huh.
You didn't have to pick it with your hands. I picked them rollers a lot of times with my hands. My thumbs would get all festered up.
Ooh.
But as years went on, they had different things, new stuff coming in all the time. So it would have been a lot easier at the last if I hadn't had so many frames.
Right.
But you had 20 sides. You got to push that box of roping around all them sides. You got to put the roping in when it runs out, and you try not to let it run out. Because if a piece of roping that's in there is about ready to come off, you know, you take it out and twist it off and put your new one in there, and that way your end don't come down.
Right.
But if it runs clean out, you got to put your end back up and all that stuff.
Now, where in the mill was the spinning room where you worked?
Huh?
Where in the mill was the spinning room where you worked? What floor was that?
I worked on the first floor.
On the first floor.
The first floor was the spinning room, and upstairs was the card room.
Mm-hmm.
And down from that, they had an Abbott room.
Right.
And then on down farther, they had a finishing department and a twister room.
Now, what was it like in the spinning room? What was it?
Huh?
What was it like in the spinning room? Was it?
What
How
was
many people were in there, and
How many people was working?
and what was it? Hot in there, or loud, or?
We had a lot of people working in the spinning room. I had a lot of women and a lot of men. Because the men off the frames off. When the bobbin got full, they put an empty one on there. That roping is what made that end.
Right. And so, about how many years did you work at the mill then? We said you started when you were 18.
I worked till I was 62.
62. So that's 40 some years, right? Is that now? What was the biggest change that you saw?
Oh Lord, I saw a lot of changes. Every time they changed, they changed layouts.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'd get my set of frames cleaned up good, you know, if you kept your frame cleaned up, the ends would stay up. But if your frame, you had lint and all coming down, they tear that end down. And every time I'd get a set of frames cleaned up and have them running good, they'd make a new layout and take the job I was running, they'd mix it up with give somebody else part of it. Give me some that somebody else had been running and hadn't cleaned it up. I said, I told my husband, I said, every time I get a set of frames cleaned up good, why, they'll run good, they'll have a new layout and give my job to somebody else. For years and years, when I first went to work, I worked over there at the door that went out there to the dam.
Mm-hmm.
I used to keep my work. I'd go out there. I worked the second shift. Well, I worked the third shift. When I went to work, I worked 1 week with the lady that taught me how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they put me on the third shift, and then they want me to go to the canteen for everybody in there. And one night, the man put me on the side. He said, I told somebody you couldn't run them. I said, well, why'd you put me over here? I said, if you told her I couldn't run them, why don't you put her over here? I used to come home sometime for 4 hours tired, and I'd be so worried. I'd go in every morning, the colored people just had them size 12 fish. One morning they had one of them stopped off, and I went in the office and I told my boss man, I said, I'm gonna need some help this morning. I said, they got my one frame stopped off, tore all the pieces of it. He said, well, you need help when everybody else needs it. Well, I didn't say nothing else. I turned around and walked on up. Well, he went and got somebody. And she put the roping in and didn't put the end up. When I went back around there, it was tore all the pieces. And I stopped it off. And I went back in the office and I told him, I said, that woman that you put over there to help me, she didn't put the end up. And I said, and it's in a mess. I said, you come out here and look at it. And he went out there and looked at it. He said, who done it? Who put the roping in and didn't put the end up? And I told him who it was. And she was in the canteen. He went in there and got all over. And she come out there and she wouldn't speak to me no more the rest of the day. But I learned a long time ago that you have to take up for yourself. Ain't nobody else gonna take up for you. You got to take up for your own self. And I've had some good times down there, and I've had some rough times. Mm-hmm. But in all of it, I enjoyed working down
there. Now, you mentioned the canteen. What was that for, or where was that?
People go in there and eat and get them a drink and all, but I always took my lunch. Because I drank coffee, and I had me a coffee thing. I'd put the hot coffee in it. It would be hot. See, it would stay hot all day. But you could go in the canteen, buy your drink, and buy your sandwich. Mm-hmm. I had some good times down there, and I had some rough times, but in all of it, I enjoyed working in that department. That's why I reckon that's why I lost part of my hearing. Because, you know, the frames was run with a motor and a belt, and they made a lot of fuss.
So it was really loud in there?
Yeah, messed it up your hearing.
Yeah.
Because they come down there on a big old truck and had it parked down there in front of the big office, Mr. Byler's office, and they had us out there and had everybody go out there and have a hearing check. Well, they said I had lost some hearing, so I went to Dr. Crumple. He was a nose and ears and doctor. And he told me, he said, you have lost some hearing, but you don't need no hearing aid line. But long years later, I had to get a hearing aid. But I went down there as soon as they checked my hearing and told me I had lost some hearing. I went to my Your doctor had him check it out.
Now, did you ever wear ear protection or?
Oh yeah, after that they gave everybody earplugs to wear.
Mm-hmm. But it was still so loud. It just...
See, yeah, a lot of them had already lost some of their hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I forget to put them in.
Yeah. Get in the habit, I guess, of not doing it. Now, you mentioned before that one of the things that changed was that at some point there started to be more black women and black people working at the mill. Now, do you remember when that happened, or?
What? When they hired black people?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh yeah. And that's what I hired most of the time. To start with, once in a while they'd hire a white person. But later years, everybody that come down there was black, they'd hire. And then they'd bring them over there where I was working.
Mm-hmm.
The boss man would, and show them what kind of work, they'd be doing. So one day, every time they'd give me somebody to train, and I'd get them where they could run one or two sides, they'd take them and put them with somebody else that run in the vent room all the time and smoke and get behind. Well, one day he bought some over there, about 3 or 4. And he told me, he said, you act like you don't want to show them. And I asked him, I said, well, one of the women he brought around there, she knew how to put the ends up. So he put her over there with a woman that runs in the vent room and smoked all the time.
Yeah.
He wanted her to put her over there because she could put some ends up to help that woman catch up. And he was going around. He said, she'll show you what her doing. And he come back over there and told me, he said, you act like you didn't want to do it. I said, well, how would you feel? I said, you tell a lady there that could put the ends up right